Hello, and welcome to Copy That, the series from Quadcast that's all about copywriting. I'm your host, Lewis, and today I'm joined by Mitchell Wood to talk all things copy. Mitchell, thanks so much for being here. It's great to have you on.
Thank you, Lewis. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm very happy to have you here. I think I'm very hopeful that we're going to have a really great conversation off mic. This has been very funny so far, so I'm looking forward to this.
Yes,
I'm looking
yes.
forward to this.
Just imagine what the audience could listen to.
Exactly.
Off mic. Yeah,
And I am on a sugar-free diet, so who knows what kind of things are going to come out of my mouth.
that's it. And I'm on a caffeine-free diet, so let's go for it.
In these manic episodes that we're experiencing. So I just want to get started with the first thing that I ask everybody, which is, how did you get into copywriting?
I got into copywriting. I kind of fell into it, really. I left school and college when I was 16, 18. And didn't really know what I wanted to do. I actually started thinking I wanted to be a police officer or a firefighter or something like that. But then I discovered a love for writing. So I took a few courses, university courses at Open Uni. One was English Lit and creative writing, and the other was a master's in creative writing. And then whilst I was studying, interacting with my peers and collaborating with other writers, someone brought up the role up, or the subjects, the profession of copywriting. I thought, you know what, that sounds like me. That sounds a lot like me. So I kind of fell into it that way. And one of my first gigs was as a voluntary content writer, which I suppose it's slightly different to copywriting, but it kind of gave me that insight that I wanted to work with words. And after that, I got a position as a junior copywriter at Art Institute in Leicester, which is where I'm from. Big up Leicester. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And yeah, that was, I think, 5 years ago maybe, that I got into that position. And from there, it's just not been, I won't say plain sailing, but it's been some sort of sailing. From junior copywriter to where I am now, to a freelance copywriter, working in-house predominantly. And then the past year, freelance, working across many different spaces with many different people, creating many different types of content. So yeah, I kind of fell into copywriting. That's how I got into it.
Fantastic. It's I think everybody's unique journey into copywriting is so interesting because there's nobody that sort of has the same venture into it. I think the sort of humanities degree does seem to be quite common because that was me. I did a film studies degree and then I did a screenwriting master's and then here I am. So when you did your creative writing courses at uni and degrees and all sorts of things, was there a particular medium that you really enjoyed within that, or was it more of a writing as a whole?
Yeah, certainly. And it kind of, in a way, lent itself, I suppose, in particular, the storytelling and the crisp nature of it was poetry. I focused predominantly on poetry. I did a bit of script writing, like yourself, but it was poetry that I veered towards and I'm most connected with. And I think it was because of that it got me into copywriting. Because as you know, most forms of copywriting about conveying a story, conveying a message with as little words as possible, connecting really with your target audience in the right way. And that's what poetry does, So that's what kind of lent itself, that sort of feeling towards poetry transferred quite easily towards copywriting. I think that's why it's so easy for me to fall into it, because I had this grounding in poetry.
Fantastic. So you mentioned that you obviously work now as a freelance writer. How long have you been going freelance for, and what made you take that jump?
Yeah, so I've just completed a couple of months outside of completing, couple of months post, to completing my first 12 months as a copywriter, freelance. And there's a couple of things why I took the jump. I was in-house, like I mentioned earlier, for a few years at a few different companies. And that's great being in-house. But it really focused on one industry, and the most previous space was the travel industry, which was great. But it kind of wasn't flexing my creative muscles, my creative juices. I wanted to work in different spaces with different people. And at the same time, my partner was asked, she works for Boots, and she was asked to go back into the office full time. And this presented a little bit of a challenge for us because we've got 2 kids. So it meant that we always needed somebody to take them to nursery and to school in the morning and pick them up as well. And whilst we were both working at home, that was okay. That was easily done. But whilst we weren't working from home, that made it a little bit more difficult. So it's a combination of really looking after the kids, make sure the kids are okay, and also to flex my muscles in different creative spaces. So that, yeah, and I've been doing it for, like I say, 12 months. It's been great.
Fantastic. So within your freelance work, have you specialized in a particular niche or industry, or do you just like to have a bit of everything?
Yeah, I like to, I'm a generalist in that I work across spaces. I've worked in cosmetics, construction, accountancy, the pet industry. I've worked with in sustainability, the cooking sector. They're just the ones I can think off the top of my head, creating different types of content, predominantly web page copy, blogs, and video script writing, as well as focusing on LinkedIn ghostwriting, which is becoming a real big part of my freelancing world at the minute. I work across different spaces predominantly, and that's what I really wanted to do after being in-house at the travel company that I just mentioned. And prior to that, it was art, and I think it was employment. It was because I work across spaces, creating many different types of content.
I think a lot of copywriters prefer to kind of exist in that generalist space because you're not then sort of forced into one box that you might not even necessarily fit that mold. So you can just sort of branch out and make yourself happy through the work that you do and make sure that it's constantly work that you feel proud of. And so I'd love to know, how will you usually get started on a piece of copy? Do you like to sit there and plan? Do you like to really verse yourself in the industry that you're writing for? What do you like to do?
So I kick a bit of copy off before any sort of pen touches paper or fingers touch keyboard. I like to sit down with who I'm writing for, whether that's the business owner, whether that's a marketing manager, and just really understand them and what they're about.
Yeah.
Understand their messaging, understand how they want to position themselves, the sort of language they want to use, because that's really important. And assessing them really, and then assessing their industry and see how they connect, or maybe sometimes they don't connect. And then from there, I will usually assess competitors in their space to really get an insight of what makes their space tick, and to see how I can make them compete with their competitors, or ultimately excel, go past their competitors to sell more products or sell more of their service, I should say. So that's how I start a bit of copy. And then it's more research. If it's a digital piece, you got to focus on keywords. If it's print, it's got to be particularly refined and to really connect with people at a glance. So yeah, that's how I like to start. It really comes down to sitting down with the person, or the client rather, I should say, and understanding what they want from it. What do they think they want from it? And what can I bring that makes their product or service really sing and connect with their customers? So I think that's the most important part, is before any words are written, is sitting down with the client and understanding them and what they want from it.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I love to ask copywriters that question, because everybody's process is so kind of starkly different. And I think I like to get bogged down a lot in research, whether it's for a more technical piece of copy, or whether it's keyword research, or whatever it might be that the piece requires. Yeah. And I can sometimes get a bit like, oh no, I've spent far too much time researching this, and then just realizing, oh no, that's actually my process. So to hear how other people work, it reminds me, oh no, everybody's different. And that's the theme of this series, is everybody's different.
Oh, what a wonderful theme, Lewis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's wicked, mate. That's wicked.
So I'd love to know, is there a type of content or a type of medium within writing that you really prefer to do more so than others?
If it's copywriting, I really enjoy website copy, web page copy, because that's about thoroughly researching the industry, which I suppose is a given in copywriting, but that's what you do, and taking this wealth of information, because usually every space has got a mountain of info that you could just lay on a website, but it'd be too text heavy, wouldn't be digestible, people won't read it. So it's about distilling that into something that really connects with your reader, using the right language, not just from an emotional standpoint, but also from an SEO standpoint, from a keyword standpoint, like we just said. So you actually capture those search terms, but ultimately distilling it and collaborating with designers to make something that is scrollable, which is skimmable, which instantly connects emotionally with that reader. To ultimately, sell a product or a service and to convert. So yeah, it'd be web page copy, which I really enjoy doing. But I also have been strongly focusing on LinkedIn ghostwriting as well. Recently, I have a lot of clients after maybe it's a web page that I've written for them, maybe it's a blog, maybe it's an email, who want to increase their personal branding, their visibility on LinkedIn, because they understand that it can really help with them convert from a different touch point rather than just a bit of web page. It's marketing is this whole breadth of different touch points, social media being one, probably one of the biggest. And they understand that's where people hang out for the most part. So LinkedIn is becoming a prominent factor, a prominent bit of copy that I create for clients on a regular basis as well. So yeah, I suppose website copy, landing pages, and LinkedIn ghostwriting. Yeah.
Brilliant. Is there the flip side of this? Is there a platform or is there a medium that you don't necessarily enjoy writing for? Because for me, it's Instagram. I've never enjoyed it at all, and I don't think I ever will.
Yeah, I'm similar. When I've worked in-house, I have worked with Instagram and Facebook, the metaverse, but since going freelance, I decided to focus on one social media, and that's LinkedIn. So if clients really wanted help with Instagram and Facebook, I would, but it's something that I don't promote. TikTok as well is not one that I promote. I collaborate with some great marketers who are really good on TikTok. So I think I'd rather connect clients with those people.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably those three are probably the platforms that I don't particularly specialize in or focus on.
Yeah, I think everybody, the longer that I've been a copywriter, the more I kind of view it as this real community, because there's not this sort of sense of gatekeeping of like, no, this is my client, you back off. It's no, actually, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this particular project justice. Let me recommend this person, or let me recommend this agency, or whoever it might be. And I think that that's something that's always incredibly heartening to me is, everybody's got each other's backs, and it's
definitely. And you really like discover that even more in depth when you go freelancing as well, because when you're in-house, you'll have an old team that supports you. You have a graphic designer which you can lean on, obviously for the visuals, which is super important for a copywriter, because those words and those visuals need to align, don't they?
Yeah.
You'll have marketers as well that put an old campaign together. And you'll have managers, and you'll have a wider team that really help. So yeah, when you're networking, you understand that it's important, like you say, to create that community for yourself and for your clients. So I have marketers, graphic designers, videographers that all help me with areas that I could probably advise on, but I probably couldn't execute as well as these specialists. So yeah, that community is really important, Lewis. Yeah, spot on.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, you always want to be making sure that you're doing your best work and making sure that other people are doing their best work as well. And if there's this really healthy sort of symbiotic relationship between, yourself and a designer, for example, or a fellow copywriter, that you can all come together and create something that's a really, really wonderful piece of work, then that's kind of just like the most incredible thing ever. The longer that this series goes on, it's like a real cry for socialism, and I'm getting really into this mindset of like power to the people.
You go into politics after this, Lewis.
I very well might do. It's become like a real I don't know. This is almost like my Green Party manifesto. The longer this series goes on,
I think the next general election is 2027. So you've got a couple of years, right?
But yeah. I've got time. It's never too soon, but it's never too late.
Yes.
So I'd love to know, obviously, within your website, you talk about selling stories and how that's been a big part of your journey as a copywriter. And I would love to know, what role do you think storytelling plays within copywriting, and how important is that to any kind of piece of work?
Yeah, I think it's massive. I think before anything, people connect with stories. You see it in not just in copywriting, but every area of our life. From watching the TV, which is obvious, you're gripped by a good story. From being down the pub or the coffee shop with your pals, your family, you're gripped when they say, listen to this, this is the story that I've just been through. And in copywriting, it's the same. People connect with stories, not just on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level. It's ingrained into us, So having a story weaved into whatever type of copy it is, whether it's website copy or blog, or whether it's LinkedIn, people connect with that. And that's what you need first and foremost. You need people to connect emotionally with what you're trying to say. Because if they don't connect, then you've lost them and you probably never get them back. So telling a story is the most important part, because that one single true rule is that people connect with stories, people connect with people connect with emotions. So if the story isn't there, then it's likely that the conversion won't be there. It's likely that the people who are reading your story, listening to your story, watching your story, they won't buy anything from you, which, in copywriting, I suppose, is the ultimate thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the end goal. It's
to put it bluntly and crudely.
Yeah, exactly. I think, your sort of take on that is really interesting, because I think even so, with your history with poetry, for example, I mean, what better and quicker way to communicate emotion and story and relationships than through poetry? It's such a succinct, it's such a concise way to communicate something, and yet it's so effective when it's done really, really well. And obviously, with copywriting, it can be something that's as short as a poem, or it could be a 10,000 word terms and conditions page that you're having to write. It's, as long as it's communicating what it needs to communicate, that's sort of the most powerful thing for any copywriter. And for any writer, I think, you just want to elicit some kind of, not necessarily emotional response, but you want there to be some kind of emotional engagement with whatever it is that the audience is reading. And that is Certainly. A powerful thing.
Yeah. People act on emotion. They rarely act on logic. So, it's about firing that emotion up in them, and making them act that way. So stories do that. And they're the most effective way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to know, is there a project that you feel particularly proud of throughout your copywriting career?
Yeah, the one that springs to mind, and when we were speaking a little bit earlier, this kind of sprung to my mind first and foremost. It's one of my first gigs, and when I was, I've got a lot that I'm proud of, but this is the one that sprung to my mind, and I'm going to shamelessly plug a celebrity here, so just to warn you. But it was writing a script. It was a short script, like a 90-second promotional thing, promoting this new cooker. And this brand, they wanted to be, they're called Stone Cookers, they were called. And they wanted to be shown as a revolution, in how people should cook. Taking all the best parts of traditional cooking and fusing it with all the modern technologies like Bluetooth cooking and, being able to really be precise with your temperatures, all that sort of stuff. And they wanted to get Marco Pierre White, the chef, to promote it. So I got to write that script, and I got to hear Marco Pierre White speak my words in a promotional video. So I suppose that is the part that I'm most proud of. And it's the one that always springs to mind, because for the most part, Marco Pierre White is a very recognizable name, and it really shows what I'm capable of in a way. Shamelessly, it shows what I'm capable of.
What you should do, you should walk into one of Marco Pierre White's restaurants and go, my words got you that massive paycheck. I deserve a free dinner.
Yes. And I'm planning it little by little.
Step by step, you will get there. You will get that free meal.
I will get there. Yeah. I'm building up the courage little by little, line by line, copy by copy, to go in and say, Marco, you owe me this much. You
owe me one gourmet dinner. I'll be waiting in the back.
I'll be waiting in the back. One gourmet dinner, thank you. I wonder what I get.
A slap in the face, maybe?
Yes, with some cold raw steak.
Yeah, you'd be shown the door.
Yes.
So I'd love to ask you something that is asking to be a little bit philosophical here, but is there anything that you find that you do differently now compared to when you first started your copywriting career?
I suppose, what springs to mind is not do differently, but I suppose act differently. Is that I'm just more confident in responding to clients. When I first started, it would be a client saying, well, I want this sentence being put in, or I want this word being put in. And for the most part, because I was so junior, I would accept that. I would say they're the client. But it wasn't until a few years later where I realized that that's not for me just to accept it. It's also for me to challenge that and say, you don't want to put this in there because, it completely contradicts the previous sentence. It disrupts the flow. It has no place emotionally in your copy. It lends nothing to what we're trying to do. In fact, it jars the reader. It might put them off. So it's responding with those sort of comments to say, this won't work. Not rather than just accepting it and seeing them as the client, it's also understanding that they're coming to me to be consulted because they're looking at me as an expert, a specialist in what I do, because it's not what they do, So I think that would be the biggest change the biggest way I change in the way I act from what I do is that I'm just more confident in challenging clients when I know that it's probably not the right process for them, not the right thing to do. Ultimately, the client, as they say, so if the client really wants that line in their copy, then I will put it in. But I will challenge them and say, this is probably not for the best. We should do this, this, and this, and give them, solutions that I think would really work in a much more better way for them. So that's what I do differently, Lewis. I'm just more confident in my abilities and more confident in telling clients that this is what we should do.
Fantastic. I think it's that confidence that is a really big aspect of copywriting life because you need to be the biggest advocate for yourself. I think that I've found that a lot of copywriters that I know personally and through doing this series and through networking is that we struggle with self-esteem and
anyone.
And I think we're generally, I think I've come across a lot of people that are very introverted that have to sort of masquerade as extroverts because, people need money because money can be used to pay for goods and services. And it's that, it's that like shameless.
Food at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Need some food on the table, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, it's that like sort of like shameless self-promotion that I think makes people feel uncomfortable, but is also that like necessity to do because, how else are you going to get the work other than, your work just generally being fantastic? You need to push yourself out there. So yeah, it's, I think that's also just good advice for any kind of newer copywriters is just have some confidence, just, know that what you're doing is good work and produce good work and, the work
and that's it. It don't have to be, combative. It don't have to be, the advice doesn't have to be combative. It doesn't have to be in a negative way. There's always a way, as a copywriter, you should be able to put a good positive spin on something. So provide it as a solution, provide it as a way forwards, not saying that their way is the wrong way, because it's not, but they're usually, when you're providing that advice, there should be some thinking behind it and why it is the better way. And just explain that to them in a friendly way. For the most part, clients respond to it really well.
Yeah, definitely. So I think as well, there's, this is like a very grand statement, but it's this idea of at the moment of commitment, the universe will conspire to help you. And, just really go for it. Just go for it. Because believe that things are going to happen and they will happen. It's that sort of, believe in yourself, believe in the work, and the work will come. Sort of thing.
Exactly. You get that mentality on board, then it kind of just begets more positive thinking. Like you say, the universe helps. Don't we love the universe, Lewis?
Yeah, don't we just? Good? It's the power of positive thinking. It is a real thing. Believe in it. Yeah. It'll change your life.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It'll either change your life or cause such like, delusions of grandeur that, you will be institutionalized, but
yeah. Either way, just believe in it, guys.
Either way, what's the worst that could happen?
Say
it. So I would love to know, how do you find that you're able to balance your own creative freedom while still meeting client briefs?
Oh, the classic one. It's a tough one, no lie, because sometimes you see a product or a service or whatever you're trying to write about, whatever you're trying to position and, get out there in front of ideal customers for your client. And sometimes they just want to be super hard corporate. They want to be really clear about their messaging, but in no way remove all sort of emotion from it. So it can be really difficult at times to manage that creativity with what the client actually wants. There's no doubt about that. But I suppose it's similar to the way I manage it is similar to what I was talking about in challenging clients, is to showcase to them that if we lean on creativity, if we use it, then it will only show your product or service in a better light. It will position yourself as a leading figure within your space, but it will also make you stand out. The market is, whatever space you're in, it's saturated. The market, there's too many people, there's too many products, there's too many services. So the only way really that I believe you can stand out is with emotion, and the way you get to that emotion is through real creative storytelling. So I kind of give them that as well. Sometimes clients just want it really black and white, really, this is what we do, this is why we do it, in a corporate tone, maybe in a professional tone, without any sort of emotional pull or creativity. And then some clients respond really well, and they want that creativity. And I think that the creative projects tend to do well than the more corporate ones.
Yeah, definitely. So it's that sort of corporate has that like generic feel to it that isn't fun to read, isn't fun to write. Sometimes it might do the job, and you might, be able to SEO up a piece of really corporate content that performs really well. But it's it's as you say, people lead with emotion; they don't lead with logic. And corporate tones generally sort of lead with logic instead of emotion, and that's not something the audiences are going to respond to. And it's just interesting to hear your takes on sort of creative freedom, because as creative individuals, clearly otherwise we wouldn't be in this profession. It's the creative juices that sort of keep us going. We want to be as creatively fulfilled as we can, but it's also meeting within that specific tone that we need to do, because we need to keep the clients happy just as much as we need to keep ourselves happy. And so I would love to know, do you have like a specific tone within your own writing that just comes from you, that you kind of find it hard to adapt? Or do you like to just, do a little bit of everything and write within the client's tone? Or do you like to leave a little bit of Mitchell in everything that you write?
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that my I suppose natural tone, if we're talking about tones, is one of fun and personality. I suppose if you check out my LinkedIn account, that's what I try to convey, because I really think that also cuts through the noise, making it fun. But obviously that doesn't work for every brand. Each brand does need their different styles, their different tones. Because I suppose if you went with that fun, kind of laid back, kind of taking a jab and mick out the world sort of tone that I use in my own LinkedIn, if you conveyed that to, I don't know, surgery or something ultra serious like engineering of buildings, people probably wouldn't take that very seriously, would they? And you really need to take those sort of specific sectors quite seriously. So I suppose I do factor in time to try and write out my style whilst I'm writing of a client style, because sometimes that does that kind of stick in there, as you probably know, being a copywriter, sometimes it's hard to go from one style to the next. So how do you quickly transfer between those two styles? Well, my answer is just to write and then write some more until I get to that tone that I want. But sometimes it flows really naturally. I've been said about the corporate tone, I found that really easy to write in a corporate tone. It's quite generic, like we said, quite standardized, which is probably one of the reasons. But yeah, I suppose my natural style of being fun and packed with personality sometimes can slip in to other people's style. But that's when, thorough editing comes into the process. That's where thorough writing comes into it, and researching a style, so it really reflects in the product or the piece of writing that I'm doing, I should say.
Yeah, it's just that I generally sort of find that my sort of tone, I have quite a sarcastic tone within my own writing. So I always like to kind of cite examples of this. When I was doing my master's degree, for the final thesis project that we had to do, I had to write an accompaniment piece to just explain what I the decisions that I made and all of these things. And I'd structured it in this really weird way that it was I tried to write this like really compelling, absurdist take on like all of the decisions that I'd made to try and explain it, because I knew that the project that I'd done was really bad. So it was like, I knew it was awful. So I was just like, let me just try and like salvage this in any way that I can. And I remember submitting it to my lecturer and some of my tutors at the time and just saying like, please like read this before I submit it, because I just like, I need to know if I'm going to fail this with this. And the one response that I got back from it was like, this is both terrible and genius at the same time. You should be really proud. And I was like, that is exactly the response I wanted. Like, yeah, it was great because it was just.
Did you submit it?
Yeah, I submitted it and got, I got a first on that assignment, not to brag. It was great, but it was, it made the project that I'd done that I thought was bad better because it made it campy. So it was like it was a project that was all worthwhile, but obviously within that sort of tone, that's the kind of thing that I have to park at the door when I come into work.
Yeah.
So I find it really hard to sort of adapt that and meet this sort of corporate tone a lot of the time, because corporate doesn't necessarily come naturally to me, and it's something you do have to learn how to write corporately, and you do have to learn how to write generically, because everyone has got their own style, because everybody comes into this profession with their own unique experiences and relationships and emotions and everything that kind of runs the gamut of human psyche that is going to make each project its own individual thing.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, it's just an interesting sort of concept to sort of ask people what their tones are, because everybody is so different. And I think that's almost the beauty of this work and this world and this community, is everybody is different. To bring it back to everybody's different.
Yes, everybody is different.
Everybody's different.
Nice cycle there. Nice cycle.
Yeah, if there's one thing I will do, it's circle back to a point.
Yes. Any good copywriter worth their salt is able to repeat. Flow it in the cycle. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a copywriter worth my while, but I am going to say that I'm good at repeating a point.
That's what copywriters do. We repeat points. Yes, there you go. I've simplified copywriting. We repeat points.
So I'd love to move on to something that's a little bit of a meaty subject now, and I think every copywriter has their own sort of takes on this subject, but I would love to know, what are your takes on AI tools within copywriting?
Oh, here we go, the big one.
Yeah.
What are my take? So at first, when Gen AI came onto the scene, I suppose I was initially a little bit frightened by it, scared, because you type a prompt into, let's use ChatGPT, the most famous one, I suppose, at the moment. You type something into there and it gives you this wealth of copy within the space of minus 5 seconds. It was worrying, but then I looked into it more, and started to play around with Gemini, Perplexity, a bit of Claude as well, just to really understand what they were doing, and so I could really have an opinion and mindset on it, and to try to use them more as a tool, not as a replacement, because I don't think the copywriter will be replaced anytime soon, he says, with crossed fingers. But I do think that it can help speed up our process. It can help with research, as long as you look into that research, because Gen AI can be biased, is biased, and it can just get things plain wrong. So it's always good to look it up. I find it really useful for idea generation, but again, building on those ideas. But what I find that it can't do is that it can connect with a person. Person to person is where the power lies, I think, in a copywriter's skill set. Because what a copywriter can do is, like we're doing now, is we can sit down, we can joke, we can laugh, we can really get into what a person is about, what a product's about, what service is about. And I just don't think AI is able to do that at the moment. Who knows what it can do in the future? I don't hold that looking glass. I don't have that mystic ball, but I think it's a really useful tool for certain parts of what we do, like idea generation, like research, maybe rephrasing here and there if you're really struggling to rephrase something. But I don't think it will. Yeah, I don't think it will replace the copywriter anytime soon. Again, with crossed fingers.
Yeah, cross fingers in tow. It's the longer that this goes on, the more that I'm coming to the kind of conclusion that AI will never replace good copywriting. It will only replace bad copywriting. And it's that human written good copywriting that is going to continue to be original and continue to be filled with emotion, that is going to, excel, and people are going to go towards that, because I think people are craving that sort of human connection more so than ever now. In a world where we're constantly addicted to our phones and we're all addicted to dopamine and it's all of these things, I think we're craving human connection. And I think that AI being fed bad copywriting and it learning from bad copywriting will just continue to give out bad copywriting. So that to me is where I kind of sit with it. Yes, it can be a great tool for research. I use it for research. I like it for research. But I've also found lately it likes to give you sources from articles that are behind paywalls. So I don't know what that's about, because I'm not going to pay for The Guardian just for this one article. Not going to do that. So yeah, I don't know why it's got these kind of inherent biases, and why why it wants us to fund a capitalist society any more so than it already does. It's just it's a great tool when it wants to be. And it's not a good tool most of the time. I think, it can be great for, as I say, for research purposes. It can be great for idea generation. I quite like it for spell checking. But even so, you have to tell it, like, I'm in England. Please make sure that this is like UK English appropriate language and punctuation.
Remove those Zs, please. Add those Us.
Remove the Zs, add the Us, and don't add the extra Ls where you need to add the extra Ls. Like in the word cancelled, because I always get stuck behind that. That always stresses me out.
Yeah.
So I
think it's spot on, Lewis. Yeah, sorry,
yeah. No, there's so much that I think that can be said of this sort of topic, and there's no kind of one right answer, and I think that that's almost kind of the worry, is that there's no one definitive answer of like what is appropriate to use and what is it not appropriate to be used for. Like for me, I think it kind of gets into this really sort of I don't know if you've seen all of these images lately of people like hugging their younger selves that they've
I haven't done. That sounds freaky.
It's weird. It's like you give it a picture of you now and a picture of you when you were younger, and it's like your older self hugging your younger self, and that to me is like inherently sinister, because I don't need these things to know what I look like. Like it's I don't want it to recreate my face.
It's somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I don't want Uncanny Valley at any point. And if I did, I would go and watch like a weird looking film. I wouldn't go in I would go and watch The Lion King from 2019 where the lions are talking and there's no emotion on their faces. I'd go and see that. I don't need AI generated imagery to give me that sort of creepy Uncanny Valley effect. And I certainly don't need Uncanny Valley from my own face.
We've got mirrors for that, right? Why do we need AI?
Yeah, exactly. There's mirrors and ring lights for that very thing. Yeah, it's a wide ranging conversation, and I think it's going to be one of those things that we kind of have to learn to adapt to and learn to live with, because it's not going anywhere. And as kind of as sad as a fact of that is, because it's bad for the environment, it's all of these things that we need to be incredibly cautious of, but we're not, because I don't know, advancements in tech over saving the planet, I guess.
Yeah, who needs a planet?
Who needs a planet?
Needs this planet, right?
Yeah, who needs it? It's fine. Don't even worry about it.
Who needs a planet? We've got AI.
Yeah, it's it's a wide ranging subject. It's a wide ranging topic, and it's going to be one that I think we're going to continue to see every day for years and years to come. There's constantly a new take of something on LinkedIn, or it's a recycled take on LinkedIn that you've seen for the third time that day. And there's constantly news stories, and there's constantly all of these things. And all I think that we can hope is that these AI-generated tools aren't going to be used in place of human writers, human artists, human photographers, human visual effects designers, anybody. Human actors now. There's this I can't even think of what her name is, but there's this AI actress that
Oh, yeah.
people are in uproar about because, that's just not the kind of thing that people are going to be advocating for. This is what the actors were striking for 6 months in 2023,
Yeah, exactly. It can, like I say, at the start of me looking to AI, it feels like that, like it's the end times for the creative industry. Like someone could put in a simple prompt into it and get exactly what they want within 5 minutes. But for the large part, that doesn't happen because the people asking those prompts don't have usually, because they don't work in the creative industry, don't have that way of thinking. They don't know how to ask the right questions to get the right answers. And ultimately, like you say, it's about people connecting with people. AI doesn't provide that at the moment. Hopefully it never will. But yeah, it's such a meaty subject that you could go on for days, months, years, and not really get to the heart of it because there's just so much to it. But yeah, I suppose to put a nail in it, I just, like you say, research and idea generation, it's very helpful with speeding up that certain process. But for the most part, I don't think it can do what a copywriter worth their salt can do. So.
Yeah, exactly so. And if you are using it for research purposes, there's no shame in that. Just check the resources it's giving you because it's not always right. It's got gaps in its knowledge. It will make things up. Just double check it. It'll take 10 seconds.
Double check it. Exactly. Yeah, because it's quite easy to get to the links there.
Yeah.
So I find that really useful. But as far as I'm aware, they're all kind of rolling out the sort of citations now as well, just to back what they're saying up.
Yeah.
And sometimes just challenge them as well. I think, what was I doing? I was on one of them. I can't remember which one. I said, that doesn't sound right. And it came back to me and said, yeah, you're absolutely right. I made this up. The AI said that to me. I made this up. So like you're saying, Lewis, if you are to use AI for anyone listening to this, just look into it, and just make sure that if you're using it for research, that is, just make sure the research is factually correct, unbiased. Otherwise, you could end up taking that research, putting it into something, and then you'd have egg on your face down the line. So, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Don't end up with egg on your face.
Who wants egg on their face?
Nobody.
Nobody. Exactly.
So I want to move away from the AI conversation now. I feel like we could sit here and talk for hours and hours about it, but we'd be here until Christmas and we just don't have the time in the day. But so I would love to know, moving away from completely the work side of things now, is there a writer that you particularly admire? And it could be anybody from a poet or a comedian or a copywriter, anybody. Who do you admire?
Okay. So there's one writer on LinkedIn that springs to mind straight away. His name is Eddie Shelner, and he really reminded me on the power of story, and how weaving that story into your copy makes everything more effective. Like we said earlier, on how people connect with emotion, people connect with characters and stories that reflect their own life, and if you're able to instill that, weave that into your copy, then whatever you're trying to get out in front of people, whether it's, a bottle of lotion or, a travel service to take them to Laos or something like that, then you're going to be more effective at selling that. You can be more effective at really connecting with people and giving them what they want, So I suppose, yeah, he'd be the man.
So I would love to know, so when I'm writing, I like to listen to, lately it's a lot of film scores, and I've been really enjoying the soundtrack to the Spider-Man game from 2018. I've just been really enjoying that for the last couple of days. It's been really great. Nice. So I'd love to know, have you got any recommendations for things to listen to while you write? And it could be anything from an album, an artist, a genre, anything. So what should we be listening to?
Ooh, I'm going to disappoint. I don't listen to music whilst I'm writing. I find it quite invasive. It kind of disrupts my flow. But I do listen to music when I'm not writing.
Yep.
Who am I listening to at the moment? Let me have a quick look, because I have Spotify open, Lewis. So let's have a look. I'm really getting into Il Pomodore, I think they're called.
Yeah.
And they're like a funky jazz band that I discovered whilst on holiday. And they've got one song. It's called Poldoore. spelled Poldoore. And they've got one song. It's called "But I Do." And we drove to France, me and my family, and we drove through Lyon. And this song came in. It's just got such an uplifting beat. It reflected what we were doing in terms of going into a city, exploring, discovering something new. We actually came out this tunnel at the time, across this bridge in Lyon, and we just saw this beautiful cityscape. And this song was pumping. It was magical. So, Poldoore, that's what I'm listening to at the minute. I would recommend anyone else to listen to them as well.
That's brilliant. I've never heard of them. I will go and check them out. That's a great little recommendation. Thank you. Yeah,
that's it. But I don't listen to them whilst I'm writing, because for me, I just find it quite invasive. I focus too much on the music.
Yeah,
and then it disrupts my rhythm. So, but outside of writing, outside of researching, and doing any sort of copywriting, anything related to it, then music is a big part of my life, and Poldoore is the one at the moment. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation this week would just be the soundtrack for Spider-Man PS4. Great soundtrack. Yes, can't think of the composer, but check it out. It's great. Oh, yeah. God. And what a game. Sorry.
This is a good chat.
It's a great game. I played it several times over the years, and it's just great. It makes me very happy. Yes. I'm a big Spider-Man guy. So,
who's your favorite Spider-Man, Lewis? There's been so many.
Oh, I mean, I think it's my favorite Spider-Man is probably like the Tobey Maguire films from the early 2000s. They're like, I grew up on them. I was 4 when the first one came out, so I've just kind of like grown up on it, and it's just kind of always been my favorite. And me and my brother went to the cinema to watch them all a couple of weeks ago, and it's just always like a religious experience watching them in the cinema, because we're both just sat there in awe of them the entire time.
Nice.
It's great. I'm not religious, but I am spiritual, and that's the closest to a religious experience I think I'll ever get. So.
A cinema and Spider-Man, love that.
Yeah, exactly. So Mitchell, this has been absolutely amazing. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come on and entertain me for an hour. I really appreciate this. So I just would love to wrap up by just asking you for some shameless self-promotion. Where can people find you and your work online? Oh,
yes, the shameless plugs. So you can find me. My name's Mitchell Woods. I work under the title of contentwithmitch.co.uk. That's my site. That's where you can find me. That's where you can find my portfolio, what I'm about, just a quick little snapshot of me. But primarily, if you really want to connect with me, for the most part, I'm on LinkedIn. Mitchell Woods, spelled with a double L. Don't forget that second L, or you will not find me. And I'll be on there usually just writing about copywriting, writing about LinkedIn ghostwriting, but for the most part, just trying to connect with my audience and just try to have a bit of fun.
Brilliant. Well, everybody go and check out Mitchell. I mean, this has been a really great conversation. So, you can just imagine what his LinkedIn's going to be like. It is truly wonderful. He's giving me the thumbs up. So
I am. 2 thumbs, everyone.
Yeah. 2 thumbs up. 4 if you include mine. Thanks so much, Mitchell, once again. And thanks everybody for listening. And we will catch you next time.